Emilia Clarke is well known for her amazing work as Daenerys Targaryen on Game of Thrones, but she's now revealing her secret health battle that she suffered during filming of the HBO hit. The 32-year-old actress wrote a powerful piece for The New Yorker that began with her working out at a gym one day when she was 24 when she suddenly became violently ill and was taken to the hospital. Finally, I was sent for an MRI, a brain scan. The diagnosis was quick and ominous: a subarachnoid hemorrhage, SAH, a life-threatening type of stroke, caused by bleeding into the space surrounding the brain. I'd had an aneurysm, an arterial rupture. As I later learned, about a third of SA patients die immediately or soon thereafter. For the patients who do survive, urgent treatment is required to seal off the aneurysm, as there is a very high risk of a second, often fatal bleed. If I was to live and avoid terrible deficits, I would have to have urgent surgery. And, even then, there were no guarantees, she wrote. I remember being told that I should sign a release form for surgery. Brain surgery? I was in the middle of my very busy life, I had no time for brain surgery. But, finally, I settled down and signed. And then I was unconscious. For the next 3 hours, surgeons went about repairing my brain. This would not be my last surgery, and it would not be the worst. I was 24 years old. Emilia eventually made it through the surgery, but doctors found a second aneurysm that needed to be monitored. Emilia continued, even before we began filming season 2, I was deeply unsure of myself. I was often so woozy, so weak, that I thought I was going to die. Staying at a hotel in London during a publicity tour, I vividly remember thinking, I can't keep up or think or breathe, much less try to be charming. I sipped on morphine in between interviews. The pain was there, and the fatigue was like the worst exhaustion I'd ever experienced, multiplied by a million. And, let's face it, I'm an actor. Vanity comes with the job. I spent way too much time thinking about how I looked. If all this weren't enough, I seemed to W my head every time I tried to get in a taxi. Doctors eventually told her she needed surgery, but this time, she had her skull open for a very painful procedure. When they woke me, I was screaming in pain. The procedure had failed. I had a massive bleed and the doctors made it plain that my chances of surviving were precarious if they didn't operate again. This time they needed to access my brain in the old-fashioned way, through my skull. And the operation had to happen immediately, she wrote. The recovery was even more painful than it had been after the first surgery. I looked as though I had been through a war more gruesome than any that Daenerys experienced. I emerged from the operation with a drain coming out of my head. Bits of my skull had been replaced by titanium. These days, you can't see the scar that curves from my scalp to my ear, but I didn't know at first that it wouldn't be visible. And there was, above all, the constant worry about cognitive or sensory losses. Would it be concentration? Memory? Peripheral vision? Now I tell people that what it robbed me of is